Hey everyone, I'm Chris. I just had a fantastic conversation. My co-host Dan and I were able to welcome Nur-D into the studio. Minnesota musician, advocate, ball of energy, part-time Santa Claus, coming up right now.
Mall of America. For more than 30 years, it has been a retail leader and an international destination, and it remains the largest mall in the U.S. Not to mention, it welcomes millions of guests from around the world. It's huge, but it's also so much more. In this podcast, you're going to hear the real stories of how it started and why it continues to thrive. You'll hear about challenges we faced along the way and what you can learn from them. We will feature guests and experts from all walks of life and business, and along the way, you'll laugh, learn, and maybe even change the way you look at things. So if you're a fan of the mall, a brand new visitor, an entrepreneur, or a dreamer, prepare to dive deep into so much more. This podcast is presented by the Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau.
So, like for you, as a fan of all these fandoms, what shaped Nur-D? Where did Nur-D come from?
That's a lot. I mean, like, I think it's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different stuff. Like, I've always been super into nerdy stuff, you know, I'm a big professional wrestling fan, big comic book person, Dungeons and Dragons, cartoons, whatever you get, video games. So I've kind of been in a little bit of everything for a while. I think Nur-D sort of came about of just like wanting to embrace all that stuff. Music industry, sometimes you can get really like get really cool. And I tried that. And I'm not particularly good at it.
Not happening.
And so I said, well, I'll just kind of be myself, I guess. And if people are into it, then they'll be into it. If not, I don't know. I'll find something else to do, you know?
Right.
And it worked out. Like, it's been really cool just to see how many people are like, yeah, I also liked Digimon. Like, that's cool. Like, let's do that.
But that's got to be part of what's kind of cool about it, because you're being you. And everybody who's on board with that, it's kind of like you've already done the gatekeeping just by being you.
Yeah.
So anybody who's coming to your shows and gets who you are, inherently, I feel like they've got to be cool.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like, cool as in, like, you know, with an asterisk, because none of us are really cool. But
Right. No. You know
yes,
what exactly?
Yeah. It's very much like my fan base is curated to people who like the same stuff, but also, like, treat each other well, which is really nice. So I'm not, like, fighting, like, to, like, have a good time, because everybody here is like, oh yeah, we're about the same stuff. We like the same things, and we want other people to like these things as well. So it's really cool to have, like, the Nerdy Club is the best in the world. I have the best fans in the world.
Well, and you practice what you preach.
Yes, that's what
you very much do. And I was going to say, you know, following you on social, I really appreciate that you do practice what you preach.
Yeah.
And you've pulled out of shows. You've pulled out of venues because you said this does not align with who I am and who we are, so not happening.
It's one of those things that my big thing is that people work hard. You know what I mean? They go to work. You know, here they are. They're Walgreens 5 days a week. You know what I mean? They give me their hard-earned money to come see a show. I want to provide them with the ability to do that in a safe environment, period. The end. You know what I mean? I get to live my dream because other people work hard and then give me their hard-earned money to do what I love. That's a rarity in this world. And so I want to respect that decision by making sure that the spaces that I'm in are the type of places where I can invite anybody. You know, and they can be there. And if people or places don't align with that or don't hold that same spirit, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair to do that. So that's kind of like how I've been doing this since I started being Nur-D. Like, I was like, hey, we're all doing this. Like, I could be doing something else. Like, so this is a privilege, not a right. And so as a privilege, you just kind of have to, like, stand up for your convictions.
And I would say, I think Dan and I especially would agree with that perspective. Like, we do feel privileged that people decide not only to spend their money, but their time.
Yeah.
Time is just as valuable a currency.
Exactly.
And we appreciate it, and we want to put on a good show, too.
Yeah, and we do. We love it, and we love creating things, and that's one of the reasons we love having you around, too, is your creativity. And the last time I saw you had the awesome glasses on. But the one thing I love about this place is they're awesome. I'm sorry.
They are awesome. They should be in the Nur-D Club starter kit.
Yeah. I would buy that, right?
We're out there.
But I always talk about the place we're in right now, the mall, right? And I always say that everyone's welcome here. as long as you're welcoming. And I think that's kind of how the world should be.
Yeah.
Is as long as we're kind to each other and respectful, and that's a good thing.
That's
right?
a good thing. That's how we move forward. We are a people. You know what I mean? Like human beings wouldn't work without each other.
Yep.
So the best thing we could do is be as kind and like understanding and willing to learn and grow and change.
Yep.
Like that's if you're not willing to do that, then what are you doing? This doesn't work without that.
I agree.
Well, and that would be another thing too that I've observed you do is you give space for that conversation so you can share your perspective on why you're making a decision.
Yeah.
And if somebody chooses not to respect that, see ya.
Yeah,
That's fine. But
yeah.
it doesn't come from a place of anything other than, hey, I'm trying to educate you on how we can all be better. And if you're not on board with that,
It's cool.
catch you later.
Yeah. Life's too short to be fighting all the time.
Yeah.
It just really isn't. And like I just like, yo, if you're not ready, if you're not there yet, then you're not there yet.
Right.
You know, like I'm not gonna drag you, across. Like if you want to be a part of what we're doing, then this is the requirement. You know what I mean? This is the price of entry. Like basic human decency, kindness, understanding, respect. Like that's what you need to get in.
If that seems like a heavy
If
lift,
that's too much,
you need to
you're not
rethink
even going to
some
want
things.
to be here.
Yeah, that's right here.
Yeah,
right?
like-
That's right here.
It's too. That's a real low bar. Like the bar is in Avernus. You know what I mean? Like it is low. So like if you can't get over that, then it's not going to be the vibe
Then
for
it's not
you.
the
You're
right
not gonna have
fit.
fun
You're not
anyway.
gonna have fun. Yeah. So it's I try not to make it a huge deal. I just say what I say. What was like Horton said? I say what I say and I meant what I said or whatever. You know, and I stick on it.
Yep.
The end.
So Dan, when did you first become aware of Nur-D?
Well, I've heard you talk about Nur-D quite a bit, but my first real experience with Nur-D that I loved, and I absolutely loved, and you were the highlight of my experience that day. We had a marketing retreat offsite where our entire marketing team comes together for an entire day, and each department highlights what they're going to highlight, what they're working on and stuff. And in usual fashion, our events team goes above and beyond. And all of a sudden, this music starts playing, and out of the back room comes Nur-D and does an amazing performance and got everyone excited. And that started that entire day on the right foot, which was, this is about love, this is about creativity, this is about excitement, and this is about letting go and just saying, hey, we're all in this, right?
Yeah.
And so you made that impression will last
Very
with me
nice.
for years and years.
Well, thank you.
So I don't know how we're going to hide you and the full band
Yeah,
next year and surprise everybody. but-
We're real sneaky. Like we might be here right now. It might be you never know.
Bring him in. I want it. I want it.
No, but it's been fun over the past couple of years too. We've made a real conscious effort, especially in our events, to make sure that we are highlighting Minnesota or local-ish musicians and giving using our platform hopefully to help elevate others as well, and vice versa. Like we love that we can celebrate so much homegrown talent here. So I feel like you've almost become like the unofficial ambassador of Mall of America events over the past couple of years.
It's dope.
No, I love it. You've been here with First Wrestling.
Yes.
Yep.
Shout out First Wrestling.
Closed 2 of our holiday music festivals,
Which were very fun,
with your band. You crashed the marketing retreat, and then you were so kind to join us on Black Friday this year.
Yes. Oh,
for Doorbusters.
the Doorbusters. That was actually one of my highlights
hilarious.
of the year last year. That was
So
really funny.
just to explain to our listeners that might not be familiar, on Black Friday we do this activation where we give out scratch-offs at our north entrance. Some of them are instant win prizes, cup of coffee, passes to Nickelodeon. Some of them are gold prizes where you get a present. And this year we added the Doorbusters.
Yes.
And this year, so the Doorbuster only worked because of our enthusiastic participants that literally busted through
Just
doors,
breaking down the
giving
doors.
presents
Yeah. Oh wow.
to guests.
That was so fun. Oh, it was just a blast. And seeing the looks on some people's faces where we're like exploding out of these doors and running with presents to them. It was wild. I had never really seen anything like it, and it was just so fun.
And when you would do that, I loved it because there was always a huge group gathered around, and they went wild every single time. It was awesome.
And we even got Santa in on it, which I thought was really fun. And Santa came through, he was busting out the doors.
He was having a blast. Almost too much fun.
It was I was like, yo, Santa, you give out gifts all the time.
But it was
You
great.
were really pumped
we got
about
to
it.
do it several times, and one of my favorite times was when you just punched the present through the door and then kind of twisted it a bit and then bust through. There's cheerleaders cheerleaders behind you.
Oh yeah, the Vikings cheerleaders were there. Oh my goodness,
so much fun.
It was a blast. And you know what? One of my favorite parts about that day is when Mrs. Claus pulled me aside and said, "I'm a huge fan."
Yes, you heard it here, folks. Mrs. Claus is a Nur-D fan.
Well, look at that.
He's number one at the North Pole.
Hey,
That's all I'm saying.
I'm glad. Those elves work harder. Hopefully they're playing as hard as hard as they work. So it was just a really fun time. And then hanging out with people from First Wrestling and the Vikings cheerleaders and then just like everybody at the MOA team. Like it was just a blast.
Yeah, everybody was into it.
Yeah.
And we just made some memories.
Yeah, exactly. I watched someone unwrap like a PS5, which is incredibly hard to get just in general. Like no matter where you're going. And the look on their face, like I could tell we made their holiday. You know what I mean? Like it was cool to just be a part of that. As a local artist, it's just like it's my favorite things are giving back. So like that was really fun.
And that woman specifically, she went around to almost every staff member that day and thanked them, talking about how huge that was for her, and she was going to give it to her son or grandson, I can't remember, but yes,
it's just wild. Like it was a moment that you could tell that was going to be a lasting thing. You know what I mean? That was a lasting memory for her. So that's really cool.
So what was your roadmap with Mall of America?
Yeah,
growing up, what was this place for you?
All over the place, you know what I mean? I was raised in Rosemount, Minnesota. We come here all the time. This was like one of the cool places to go. I'm like from Camp Snoopy time. You know what I'm talking about? Like I'm from here for a minute.
Old school.
Yeah.
Old school.
No one lets us forget it.
Yeah, no, it's a regular thing. Anybody that like any millennial who comes over is like, hey, we remember Snoopy, the big old inflatable jumpy thing. Yep. And so Mystery Mine Ride. You know what I'm talking about. I've been about this place for a minute and a half. And like throughout my entire like high school, middle school time, like coming to the Mall of America was a big thing. I remember, I think I might have had like one of my first romantic moments here at the Mall of America, like on a New Year's Eve thing.
Wow.
You know. So this is memory. I have memories
Not
here.
to brag.
Not to brag. You know what I mean? But no, like like the Mall of America has always been like a big part of it. Anytime someone comes like from out of town and they're like, oh, I'm like, hey, we got to go to the mall. You got to check this out, you know. I remember one of my favorite memories of my grandfather who spent majority of his life in New York. He's an immigrant from Jamaica, moved to New York. So when he came and visited us here, I took him to the Mall of America and just to watch his eyes sort of like, whoa, like this is a major place. That was really cool. You know what I mean? I felt like I got to share something with him about like where I've been living for such a long time. So it's a staple of like living in the Twin Cities, living in Minnesota, I think is the Mall of America. And yeah, like just being able to play here has been super cool. As an artist, I came here through college. This was my hub in college, right? Because I went to college in Minneapolis. The light rail took me right here. So, like, anytime I was coming back to the suburb area, this is where I would meet everybody because I could come right here, you know? And so I've spent so much time here. It's wild to be able to say that now. I'm like, oh, yeah, like I perform here. I know the people here. Like, it's
all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah. I walked down just this last time when we were getting ready to go to the green room. And I remember I walked down so casually, I forgot that like I should probably tell people that I don't work here. Like, hey, what's up, Greg? And they're like, who is this person?
He seems like he knows where he's going.
It was confidence. It was like 90% confidence. And then I was like, I should probably wait for the person who said I should be here. So, but yeah, no, the MOA is like the place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, and it's fun to hear stories like that too. You know, we were here as guests before as well, before we could affect these moments for folks. And it just feels really good to be able to participate from the other side.
Yeah.
And you've done so many big things here. In the last couple of years especially, like, we've really ramped up, like, oh, well,
we're going to go crazy.
Let's call Nur-D. Let's see if he's willing to do this, too.
The first wrestling one, I think, really, I think that was the first time I performed as Nur-D at the Mall of America, because I had never really done that before. And here I am in the middle of this wrestling ring. You got the whole rotunda filled up with people from the top to the bottom, and just walking out and just looking. I'm like, wow, I'm at the Mall of America. We're performing, for first wrestling. You have Rob Van Dam showing up. Orange Cassidy's going to be here. Like, it was a big deal. The last time was 1997? Like, before that had happened?
Yeah,
it was crazy. And so it was just, I think that's a real surreal moment for me, was like being there for that, like the return of that. And it was just such a blast.
It was
really
surreal
cool.
for me too, being able to watch that. Because we did a couple dark matches, had kind of going, get the feelers out there. But when you came out, and especially when you did Glorious, it was like goosebumps. And you could feel it, like that whole place was just electric and primed. And ready for a great show.
They really worked with me, which was great. I had someone, I did the Acclaimed, the Scissors, the Acclaimed with one of the fans.
Oh, yeah.
It was,
Loopy.
Yeah.
We know Loopy. Yeah, of course.
So funny. I told my DJ, who's only getting into wrestling now because I'm getting into him. I was like, that is a very weird thing to shout out at a person you don't know if they aren't like a wrestling thing. You know what I mean? And I was like, yep, like this is how you know a wrestling fan for not wrestling.
Exactly.
It wasn't weird for me.
Nope.
But I can see, like, when I showed my wife when I got home, they're like, what did they shout at you? And I was like, nah, it's a wrestling.
It's a wrestling thing. It's fine.
Yeah,
we're
fine.
Good. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, there are personalities around these fandoms as well. And yes, Loopy, who is a First Wrestling fan, who we have found out is also at Mall of America all the time.
It's the place to be.
It's crazy. But there is this, there's this interconnectivity. It is this place where all these folks come together, which we know obviously and love, and that's why we're here talking about it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
But so you have some other big things in the works too that I want to touch on. I'm really excited about your dates in April.
Yeah,
with the Minnesota Orchestra. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, it is becoming like one of the wildest things as a professional musician that I've ever done. The Minnesota Orchestra, full-on symphonic Grammy Award winning orchestra, and we're going to be doing my music for 2 days. It's really shaping it. Andy Thompson's our arranger. Because I brought here's what I do, and they're like, cool, jump into it. I can't, it's sounding pretty good. Not to toot any horn, but it sounded pretty fantastic I was like, wow, this is real. And here I am, class clown, just most of my life just kind of dinking around. And to now just walk into Orchestra Hall and have these professional, top tier musicians, some of the best musicians in the world, let alone the state, but just in the world. It is wild to see how excited they are to do my stuff, and then just to hear it and to and work with Sarah and the conductor and everybody. It's been so cool. I'm very, very excited. I feel bad because the show is we barely really even talked about it. The show's almost sold out. So I really hope that people get a chance to see it. The people who would want to, because it's going to be something else.
You also seem to be very proud of the fact that you're from here and you embrace the community. So what is it like to be able to perform in all these iconic locations simply by being you and doing what you do?
I think there was a version of my life that I was never going to be this, I could have easily given up earlier because I tried to do music. I was in a rock and roll band.
Tell me more.
We were very.
Tell me more.
We were good, all right. You know what I'm saying? We were decent. But I feel I said again, it's that industry portion of it. I was trying to be someone I wasn't, and I thought, okay, this wouldn't happen for me. But you walk through these places, you see other acts perform. You walk down that hallway with the star, you see all the other acts that have performed here at the Mall of America, famous people who are pillars of the industry. And to be oh man, what if I could be one of those days? I could be one of those days, I could be one of those people. It's insane, honestly. And then being able to perform in so many of these other places across the state, at the Mall of America, at the state fair, it's wild. I feel strength on strength. I feel I'm getting blessed every time. I don't know. I'm glad that people like what I do, and I'm able to tell the world about it, because now I can travel all over the world, literally, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm from Rosemount, Minnesota. Like, we do things like this is what we do.
So I've got a producer note here, which they hate when I call that out, but I
Okay.
love to do it because it brings the behind the scenes to the foreground.
There's a whole group of like
But
really
the,
cool people over here. You
the
can't see them.
producer note says football player to theater.
Yes.
The
Please.
journey.
That is
Please.
true. That is true.
Please.
If you've watched the cinema classic, the American cinematic masterpiece that is High School Musical, you might have a small inclination to how my journey began. I sang in church when I was little. You know what I mean? I did that kind of stuff. But when I got into high school, I was like, I'm gonna be cool. I want to be a cool kid. I want to play football. And I did. I was on the football team, nose guard, center, working both sides of the defense, offense. I was out here. But two things. I guess I should say two things. The one was that, I was a lineman, and cheerleaders don't go for linemen. So
Not typically.
there's not a lot of there's a lot of people down the run before you get to me.
It's everyone other than the place kicker.
Yeah, it's like the kicker's after the lineman, but it's like there's just a lot of people before me. So I was like, I'm not really gonna live that life. But then also, I love performing. I love being able to be someone else and try different things on and see things from new perspective. That's what theater gives you. And a chance to perform and really embrace just a different type of person is really cool. So I started doing theater, and then after I did one play, I was like, I'm gonna do this. I was like, I'm gonna do this. I told my coach. My coach was fine because he was like, that's cool. You're 5'7". You would have to be really good if I was going to fight to keep you. And I was like, bye. We're good. But it was very much you show up in your pads and you run off and you quick change, you get on the theater stage. And it was a wild time. But I honestly I made the right decision for me, and I still love football, big Vikings fan, But that was the story for me. It was like I had to pick, and I chose the thing that really fulfilled me and what I was gonna do. And without theater, there would be no Nur-D, because it's a lot of pageantry. It's a lot of just engaging in that way. I encourage everybody who wants to do artistry or performing in any way really should try theater. At the very least, try it out, because there is nothing like that. It's like a live audience. It's the most real thing.
Dan?
I agree. No, ironically, Nur-D and I have had a very similar life path.
Hey!
I was a lineman on a football.
Hey!
A lineman.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
When I was in high school, a sophomore, mainly because I was afraid I'd get beat up if I didn't go out for the team.
Fair enough. That's a fair defense strategy for high school.
And yet again, when I went to the coach and said, I'm going to go in theater, he did not try to keep me either.
No. You can tell the players and the coach is like, okay. Yeah, I knew you were going to go into theater.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, well, I'm kind of good.
And I loved it. It was awesome, right?
Yeah.
Changed my life.
It did. It really did. It really
my
did.
life.
It's a different journey, and it's one that you learn a whole lot. And football, being on a team, you can learn a lot from that too. I learned a lot from my time on doing football, but and I did some football in college too, so it wasn't like I just stopped doing it altogether. But my heart, my passion really burned for performing, and being able to do that, it changed my life.
Were there any influences out there for you as a young man that you drew those lessons from that shaped who you are?
Oh my goodness. I'm one of those people that I internalize a lot of stuff that I watch. So first of all, Spider-Man, it sounds weird, but Spider-Man is the basis of so much of what I've grown into. I think even now I'm looking at as an adult, I'm like, man, I took a lot of lessons from that. Like the comic books and the things that I've read really changed me. With great power comes great responsibility as a foundation of my life. And I think it's a very real sentiment that everyone should hold. Is hey, if you have power, you have the ability to shape things, you have a responsibility to do that for the good. You know what I mean? And then, you have stories like Superman, immigrant, immigrant is afraid of people finding out, but still using their power to do good. Even Batman, I'm not a huge Batman fan, but even Batman, the idea of turning tragedy into something constructive, using your wealth wealth to help other people,
Right.
like that kind of stuff. So that's influences that really changed me, but also just like music influences. Prince, clearly, I'm from Minnesota. So like Prince and like being yourself, just doing things weird. You know what I mean? Because that's my whole bit. Like, you know, like, just do it weird. Just don't worry about being like the cool person. Just do it weird. So Prince is big, and like professional wrestlers,
The pageantry cannot be denied.
I was a big, I love Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm big into like people, like even like, you know, like I love the Hurricane Girl because it's where everything collided for me. You know what I mean? Superheroes, wrestling. Yep. The Hurricane got me into it. You know, John Cena, Booker T, all that kind of stuff. And so like, there's a lot of influences that sort of molded Nur-D into like who I am now.
Yeah, and the pageantry and the performance aspect of it, I could definitely see that. But all those elements are there.
Yeah.
They're in your shows. They're in your music. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's
awesome.
my favorite thing. I love doing this.
So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We could probably talk to you conservatively for
hours.
Oh yeah, we
8
can keep
hours.
going. That's the premium. That's the premium thing.
But it feels like that's a good origin story. That's where we'll leave it now.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and we'll see where you are after the orchestra.
There we go. Yeah,
maybe before next Black Friday. But real quick, rapid fire. I mean, I know this one, but I'm going to ask you two.
Here we go.
Camp Snoopy or Nickelodeon Universe?
Oh snap! Don't do that to me.
Rapid.
Let's wrap it.
Fire.
Okay. I'm gonna say Camp Snoopy. I'm sorry. I love Nickelodeon.
That's all right.
I do. I just it was you had to be there. You just had to be there.
Special place.
It was special place. But I can tell you that I have made, and watching my nieces make a lot of beautiful memories at Nickelodeon Universe is really wonderful too.
Right. Camp Snoopy was our part.
That was ours. That was for me.
Yep.
And seeing like the next generation get to have that moment. If at any point it becomes something else, we're gonna hear Nickelodeon Universe was the thing. Why'd you guys do that? So like, I understand where I fall in it.
Yeah. Dan?
What's the rapid fire?
And for me, it's also Camp Snoopy, simply because I brought my son here when he was little, and I saw the world through his eyes.
That's why
We're
it's
from
our
the
park.
Snoopy generation.
But I love Nickelodeon. I love all the stuff we've done there.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Favorite Ninja Turtle?
Oh, Michelangelo. That's not even hard.
Leonardo.
Okay. Good. Favorite pizza?
Pepperoni. I'm pretty basic that way.
Black olives, green olives, and very spicy peppers.
That was wrong. That was a wrong answer. I didn't think you could give a wrong answer. I didn't think that was impossible because it was an opinion question. But they're telling me that was wrong. Wow, that was. I ate good.
It's good.
Yeah, I might have to try it. I'll take it back. I'll try it before I judge it.
Favorite superhero?
Oof, it's a tie between The Flash, specifically Wally West, or Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, Billy Batson. I'm big on that.
Gotcha.
Is it wrong to say a relative of mine? That's probably not a good answer, right?
They could be a superhero.
My son is kind of a superhero in
look
my
at that.
eyes.
Well, again, another wrong answer.
And I don't want to emphasize that I love my family.
Ew. Gross. What?
I've seen him grow into an amazing man and a great father, and he's my superhero.
That's
Look
awesome.
at that. That's
awesome.
nice. I picked someone
I feel
fake.
like that's a great place to wrap it up.
That was beautiful. Yeah, no, we love it.
Well, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Thank you all for joining us. Tune in next time for so much more.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of So Much More. If you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you find your favorites, including Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. And you can also watch a video cast on YouTube. Go to podcast.mallofamerica.com to leave a review, ask a question, or give us an idea for the show. Until next time, thanks for listening. So Much More is presented by the Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for the city of Bloomington, Minnesota. Before your next trip to Mall of America, visit bloomingtonmn.org for answers to all your travel questions, deals and packages for hotel stays, and so much more.